See, I love that. And I think that's so interesting because that really to me is the whole thing where it's just like, I think people worry so much about, oh, does it pass inspection, does not pass inspection. It's like, well, hold on a second. If this is a vehicle you really want and you can see the issue, what it would cost to repair the issues, and it still makes sense in your budget, then that's great. Then you have the information you need and you could go ahead and continue on with that purchase. Welcome to Stream, a trucktractortrailer.com production. My name is Zach Miller. I'm your host, and I'm really excited for this episode. Honored to be joined by Christian Ruecker with DEKRA. DEKRA is a third-party inspection site. So Christian, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Zach. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. And this is so because we've been seeing so much of it at trucktractortrailer.com in that with prices where they are, with fuel prices where they are as well, the buyers they need to make sure everything is in order before they pull the trigger on a purchase, which is totally understandable. And a big part of that is to make sure that they're purchasing the vehicle that they think they're purchasing, which basically needs to be done via third-party inspection. So let's jump into it. What is a third-party inspection?
So in general, I would say it's an evaluation or an assessment of something, right? It could be an asset, it could be a truck, a tractor, it could be a facility, and usually you have a predefined standard that you assess this against. And the important part of the third party is that you have no benefit in doing it for someone else. So we are not, for example, a repair shop that would benefit from repairs that we find. And yeah, that's what we are doing at DEKRA, right? So a true third party, we don't sell any products, we don't repair products. So we just do the service, we just do the inspection.
Absolutely. And to me, that's really the key that the buyer or potential buyer needs to understand. DEKRA doesn't benefit by hiding anything. The inspection shows what it shows, and that's it. There's no, because I do know that there is concern when it comes to repair shops. There's concern in trucking when it comes to tow shops and tow operators. So it is essential that buyers understand that third party is third party, unbiased, no benefit.
Right.
So then let's go into the inspection a little bit. What do your inspectors look for? And then, what's in that final report that they come up with?
So in general, we offer a variety of inspections. So often we even offer to our customer to customize the report. So we have basically 3 normal packages. We can just go out and verify VIN numbers if you want. And then we have a light inspection and a full inspection report. And let's go by the full inspection because that's the most important one, obviously. That's our biggest sales topic there, I would say. And we look at every mechanical detail that's there, right? So all specs that a truck, a trailer, whatever it is, has, we will look for. We check kingpins, we jack up the front end and look for everything that could be found. In terms, if the customer wants it, we even do diagnostics. We can run a full regen if it's requested. We obviously gather a couple of photos, usually 30, 40 at the minimum, often more, again, often dependent on what the customer wants. And then we define exactly which and how findings are commented. So we want to make sure that we explain to the customer, to the reader of the report, that we explain what we found and what's not right. And then we also give them the repair costs if repairs are necessary.
See, I love that. And I think that's so interesting because that really, to me, is the whole thing where it's just like, I think people worry so much about, oh, does it pass inspection, does not pass inspection. It's like, well, hold on a second. If this is a vehicle you really want and you can see the issue, what it would cost to repair the issues, and it still makes sense in your budget, then that's great. Then you have the information you need and you could go ahead and continue on with that purchase. And that sort of gets me thinking, though, what are some of the examples of things that you found during an inspection that surprised that potential buyer?
I mean, the most obvious is that you have odometer readings, right? You would take a photo of that odometer, and then I think one of our inspectors found something that was something like 400,000 miles on it. And then we actually run the diagnostics, and the ECU showed more than 700,000. And I mean, that is just, yeah, dramatic difference that obviously has a huge impact on the price of that truck. I mean, we find that when we open up an EPF that they are completely clogged. So you have to look deeper to find more troubling things, obviously. I don't know, broken brake pads, brake chambers, these types of things are more or less obvious, but you have to look for them, you have to find them. And if somebody takes a photo from a part and you just trust the photo, that may not show that detail that we find with an inspector on site. And I think that's what a buyer is looking for to really feel comfortable of what they are buying, especially in the world where we are today, that you need to trust somebody about that report.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, you nailed the big one, which we see a lot on trucktractortrailer.com. And, you know, as you and most of the audience knows, I'm based in New York City. And in New York City, the emissions are enormous. They're measured. It really matters. And that, you know, if you need that inspection to come up with the emissions and to make sure that, you know, the vehicle emits what it says it's going to emit. And because if you're operating in a place like New York City and, you know, parts of California, you know, major places in the country, they could put you out of service for something like that. And your whole nightmare could have been avoided with a simple third-party inspection.
Absolutely. I mean, this is where we define third-party inspection, right? So our value proposition is we want to provide this additional peace of mind that you have a thorough, unbiased report that you can trust. I mean, we make it as comprehensive as possible, but sometimes the customer doesn't need the full inspection, and then we are okay to doing a less detailed job and maybe just gather pictures because that's what they're looking for, really depending on the customer needs. But again, it basically saves money on both ends. You have a seller that can be very confident of what they are selling. They present the true value and the true problems with an asset. And on the other hand, you have the buyer that knows exactly what he or she gets himself into.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting you say that, especially because at trucktractortrailer.com, we are that two-sided marketplace. You know, we deal with the buyers and the sellers, and obviously they're looking for different things. They need to be catered to and serviced differently. And so in terms of the partnership we have between trucktractortrailer.com and DEKRA, is that why you think that partnership works so well? Is that why you think it makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's natural, right? So Tractor Trailer was looking for a established company, I think, that has this unbiased third-party perspective, as we mentioned before. That's the core of DEKRA. We are an almost 100-year-old company that never sold any goods or products. We are a pure services company. So that's the core of DEKRA. And that combined with safety, which is our strategic vision to be a partner for a safer world. So for us, it's a perfect fit that we serve somebody. And I think with everything that we saw in the world going on, especially with COVID, everything is moving towards digitalization. Everything is looking towards this trusted partnership in a digital world. And I think we can provide that perspective and that help to clients and to Tractor Trailer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's what we've been talking about for, you know, really since the pandemic started, is that digital transformation in terms of everything, but certainly in terms of high-end assets. You know, I tell the story about how when the pandemic first started, two of my dear friends, they purchased their house on Zillow. They never set foot in the building until they closed. And who would have said, you know, who would have thought that's something that would become normal? But it is. And you know, we see it on trucktractortrailer.com all the time. People listing their inventory on us, knowing it's all digital, buyers calling up all the time, placing offers, asking if we could source equipment because they have that familiarity with digital and with digital purchasing. And now the next stage of that, if digital purchasing 2.0, if you want to call it, is to plug those pain points, which is exactly what this third-party inspection really does.
No, exactly. And the thing is, we cannot expect from a platform like Tractor Trailer to have people all over the place and check out items. And I think that's where we come in place, that we have a nationwide field force and trusted partners that can go out, that inspect the assets exactly as we define that they do it. And then we collect the photos and we provide the evidence and just provide this accurate picture of what somebody wants to look at and wants to buy.
I think that's a really key point right there too, is that DEKRA does not just rubber stamp the inspector. They have to go through the DEKRA process to become, a certified DEKRA inspector.
Correct. And I mean, you have multiple sides there, right? So one is you have an inspection report where you don't write things on a piece of paper, right? So you may gather evidence sometimes still on paper, but we go through a checklist, through a inspection report where you have drop-down menus so that you have concise language that reflects exactly what we want to have on the report, and not everybody comes up with their own language. And the other portion is obviously that we provide training, that we guide inspector exactly what we expect from them, versus looking at a forklift, looking at a tractor, looking at a trailer. We have certain expectations on how to go around an asset and how to inspect it to make sure that we don't miss anything. And this guidance, I think, helps our inspectors to be much more thorough and much more consistent with our reports.
100%. And remember, people, that because it's nationwide, this is the type of inspection that actually saves you time and money, in addition to all the time and money you'll save by having the inspection run. It's sort of like two ways to save by utilizing this resource. Correct.
And I think, I mean, in the past, it was always that somebody that buys a fleet of trucks, that it was clear that I travel there and look at them by myself, right? So I think now with the pandemic, really that accelerated, and people learned to trust a third party to do this job. And obviously that's our bread and butter. And within the pandemic, that obviously helped us to gain more trust that we can do these things the right way. Does the market now really is at a hot level? No, obviously not, but that's these are different reasons why we are where we are.
So what else is going on in today's environment?
Well, I think we saw a lot of things obviously pushed forward through the pandemic. We talked about that before. I mean, the world is changing constantly. It did it before the pandemic. It will do it in the future as well. But I think the entire digital remarketing place is just accelerated like we have not seen that speed before. But there's so much different dynamic as well that we see in the market. I mean, obviously, inventories are at all-time lows. Lease returns are pretty low because people rather hold on to their equipment, either they extend leases or they buy out their equipment. It's to an extent that we even have seen lately much more business where we support clients with M&A transaction because they try to get more inventory by buying other companies, which is, it's amazing to see that. But this is where we get a lot of business right now, believe it or not.
I actually do believe it, because we're seeing, just where I sit, so much consolidation in the market. I mean, we're seeing dealers buy rental and leasing companies, and they've always had front relationships. Obviously, we're seeing companies unload their LTL companies or look to buy LTL. It's just, it's wild, sort of like the new Wild West here. With a lot of these M&As in trucking and transportation. So that it's fascinating that your perspective on that, and it's fascinating that so many of them are just doing it to buy inventory, but that's what's happening, and got to be prepared.
Yeah.
So obviously, if anybody is interested in a DEKRA third-party inspection, you could go to trucktractortrailer.com and do it. But if maybe you already have a vehicle and you just want to you're not looking to buy or sell, but you just want to make sure everything is kind of clean, how would someone go about scheduling a DEKRA inspection?
Pretty easy. I mean, just go to our website at DEKRA.us, and there we have forms where you can contact us directly, ask for all kinds of inspections that we offer. So it's pretty easy. And if somebody fills out the contact form, be sure that within 12 hours or so, somebody will definitely respond and get in touch with us.
Awesome. Christian, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for what you guys are doing, really making this digital transformation much more seamless.
Thank you so much for having me on, Zach. It was a pleasure, man.
Absolutely. If you guys like the content you see, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time on stream.